In this video, we are going to talk about how to multiply your gross commission as a commercial real estate broker. We're going to be talking about your opportunity score, which is a metric that very few people know of that can truly make a massive difference in your business. And we're going to tell you how to find the opportunity score in your market where you can have the most leverage and get the most amount of gross commissions in your pipeline. Also, we're going to be talking about prospecting and how it is going to look massively different over the next 10 years than it did the previous 10 years. So be sure to stay till the end to learn about prospecting features and ideas that are going to reshape commercial real estate forever. And here in this video, you're going to get the inside scoop. So stay till the end and we'll see you then. Enjoy. One of the things we noticed from the last webinar is we had half of the room last time that was doing that was going to end up at less than 50K in gross commissions. And we're like, yo, we got to change this. We got to add some fuel to the fire, and we got to make sure that we're like dialing in for some success here. So I don't want to say today is the basics at all. But I mean, if you're crushing 300K, 400K in the business, you can still use this stuff and it's still applicable. But this is going to be extremely beneficial for the folks that are doing less than 50K, 100K, 150K. And also it's a different angle too. It's a little bit different angle of, like I said, I don't want to call it the fundamentals of the business, but we tried hard on this one. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we will jump into it. How this is going to go down, the goal here is take what's here and 3x your GCI in 2025. And I understand that's a big statement. And as I said from the previous event, we had a lot of folks that were sub 50K. And if you're sub 50K, without a doubt, I believe you can 3x, maybe 5x your GCI in this next year. I think this is going to be a great opportunity in this next year, especially with how the election went. All signs point to commercial real estate doing extremely well next year, which is good for all of us. So I'm going to break this down into three different sections here. And this is kind of a post that we had that went viral-ish, but I want to talk about opportunity score. Okay, opportunity score and finding a lucrative niche, because this is something that everybody tells you to like build a database. Like you got to build a database in commercial real estate. Like you've heard it 1,000 times. But one of the things that I think people overlook, I know I did at first, is finding a lucrative niche in the business. And so we're going to talk about what that looks like. Because I know for me, year 1 and 2, I averaged 30K in GCI in the business. And I bounced around to 2 different property types in there. That's what I mean by niche, folks, is property type. And that's one thing that, those first 2 years, I went to multifamily first, and then I went to retail. And then in year 3, I went to industrial. And it just happened that the opportunity score was much greater in the industrial sector. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And this is like starting point type, foundational type stuff that a lot of people never get to. A lot of people will tell you to go, hey, build your database and go after something. And it's like, hey, what interests me? Is it multifamily or retail, etc.? But what this is meant to do is to help you dial in and make sure that whatever you're going after is lucrative and that there's good opportunity for you there. All right. And like I said, this like making hay in the sunshine right here in year 3, that was truly because I had a lucrative niche. And yeah, I want to dig into that and like how do you find what's lucrative in your market. So dialing in your database. This is something, as I mentioned, a lot of people will tell you to go build it. But how do you trim the fat of your database? And how do you really take strong and solid shots? Because if you have a database and it's littered with properties that really it doesn't make sense for you to go after. Maybe they're too small. Maybe they're too large. Maybe these owners are folks that you're never like going to be able to break bread with. I want to talk a little bit about how that worked out for me and what's really been lucrative in my career. So that's your database and then sequencing for success. So a couple of you have probably heard me talk about this before. I'm going to talk about it from a little bit of a different angle today, but really it's going to reshape perspective on prospecting. All right. I think that how things have gone from 2015 to 2025, the last 10 years or so, I mean, it's really been the same for the last 40 years in commercial real estate. Like it was a desk phone and a Rolodex, and then like commercial real estate brokers had a massive upgrade and they just went to like Excel spreadsheet and cell phone, right? It's no different, folks. So, finding a lucrative niche and what it looks like. So, understand the opportunity score. Okay. So, this isn't, it can get complicated if you let it, but it's a very simple metric. All right. So, what I would do if I were you, and especially if I'm sub 50K, is I would look at the 24-month sale data for whatever niche you want to go in. All right. And I actually thought about this. No, I won't do it. I was going to walk through it on my property appraiser, but everybody's going to look different. I'll kind of tell you, what it looks like in my property appraiser. But what you do is you find the last 24 months of sale data. You can go 36 months, 48 months, whatever it may be, but at least the last 2 to 4 years. And the best place to find that is usually your county property appraiser. If you live in a non-disclosure state, then you might need to find an additional data company that can help you out with this, or other resources out there. But that's step one. Is if you're looking at, say, industrial properties, or let's say multifamily properties, you want to pull all of the sale data in your market. And I'll tell you the way that we did that through my property appraiser, because it actually wasn't by sale data. We actually pulled inventory first. So we could pull all of the inventory, and I don't think I'm getting ahead of myself here. We pulled all of the inventory from our market. There was like 8,000 records of commercial property, and then we sorted them by zoning or future land use. So that's the best way to figure out what type of building it is, because your property appraiser is not going to say like multi-tenant industrial, right? It'll probably just have like warehousing slash distribution, like land use code. Okay. So, and same thing for multifamily. Like, you just need to figure out your zoning and future land use codes, and sort by that. So once you have whatever you're looking for, maybe it's multifamily. Like I said, ours was inventory based. Now we have all the multifamily assets, which is a great way to start a database if you guys want to do one for free. Little bonus tip there. But then you sort by the last 1, 2, 3, 4 years of sale data. Okay. And so once you have that, you can then find the legitimate number of transactions per year. And I mean, make sure you're weeding out, like, or at least doing your best at, transactions that are not arm's length. If you're doing, no matter what it may be, like you see all these transactions for $100, a dollar, or whatever it is, or just a absurd number. Like, be very careful, and then also be mindful of like portfolio sales as well. If you have 7 transactions and they're all for the same price and all on the same date, like or 7 parcels, then like that's one sale. Okay, don't count that sale 7 times. All right, so this requires a little bit of Excel knowledge, not a ton, but just be mindful when you're going in here and try to get the best accurate sale data you can. And then once you have that, you will then divide by the number of brokers in your market. Okay. And this is going to give you your opportunity score. So let me explain how this worked out for me. So when I first got into the business, I was coming out of college. I was watching like Grant Cardone videos on YouTube. He used to do a bunch of like cool underwriting stuff back in the day. This was 10 years ago. And I was like, I want to go be a multifamily broker, right? I didn't have the loafers or the Gucci belt, but I was just like, I think I want to go sell multifamily. And I started databasing my market, and there was like 81 properties that I was looking for. I think it was 10 to 50 units. But what I failed to realize after 6, 7, 8 months, I called all these folks, I sent the mail, I did all these things. And what I realized is that like nobody really traded. Like these properties never traded. Everybody that I talked to was just so unwilling to have a conversation. They were all passing it down to the grandkids. They were all like retirement income, etc. And even though multifamily like values were through the roof, like it was really tough. And so then afterwards, what I realized was that I wanted to say there was like 81 properties in the list that I had databased, which was not enough. I know that now, guys. But then cut me some slack. This was like 3 months in, and but what I didn't realize was like, hey, how many of these properties transacted per year? And it was like, I want to say it was like 6 properties, like 5 or 6 properties transacted every year out of this like segment size. And then also I'm in Lakeland, so right in between Tampa and Orlando. And like there was a Tampa office, like Marcus office that did a ton of multifamily, in Orlando as well. And they were like dialing for dollars in all these owners, right? So they had like really good bona fide teams. And there's 7 transactions per year or whatever it was. And there's like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 brokers, right? So like a 1-to-1 ratio for like an opportunity score is not good. Okay. And so more of what you want to see as far as opportunity score goes is if it's less than 5, then take it with a grain of salt, but I would probably bail. Okay. So if there's less than 5 transactions per broker in your market is what I'm getting at. So, say there's 15 transactions a year and there's 5 bona fide brokers, that's 3 each. And I mean, not every transaction is represented by a broker. So maybe 2 each. And then, so that's probably not a very lucrative niche, right? And then you can go on. So 5 to 12, I would be cautious here, but I would be sure that I have a strong competitive advantage, right? Like if you joined that multifamily team and they crush in Tampa and Orlando, and you want to go to Lakeland and right in between them, and like, hey, my firm's the best of the best at doing multifamily, then it's like if there's 5 to 12 per broker, then that could be something like, hey, if my firm has a strong track record and it's just market expansion, maybe I go after it. Let's see. 12 to 18 is a good place to be. And like I said, for when I got in industrial, I want to say it was like 16 or 17. And there was like 2 or 3 other brokers in the market. And, we had a ton of velocity going on at the time. And then if there's 18 or plus, like, hey, that's a gold rush. I think that's pretty rare, especially in major markets, right? Like if properties are transacting, brokers are going to flock there and they're going to be involved in a lot of those transactions. And I mean, brokers to start a transaction, like they're the reason that a transaction starts most of the time, right? A broker calls you and you understand, hey, my property's worth this, I thought it was worth this, or they've got a buyer or whatever it may be. That's kind of where a lot of transactions start. So, oh, and also one of the things I wanted to mention was divide by the number of brokers in your market. If you don't know how many brokers are in your market, I mean, this can be hard sometimes. And like, I would just do your best because there's, usually not like a directory of like Tampa commercial real estate brokers and here's my specialty. But I think the best way to find this number would be to go to one of the big listing providers, go to a LoopNet, go to a CoStar or a Crexy, and just look like, hey, here's 15 properties that are for sale. Look at all these brokers. Are these brokers are they local? Are they out of town? So it's something just to be mindful of when seeing how many brokers are in your market. Like I said, I posted about this on LinkedIn a month or so ago, and it went, I guess you would call semi-viral. Like, I don't know, there was I don't know, 20, 30,000 impressions on it or something, but I think it was just because of this. Because this is something like everybody tells you to build a database, but like to dial in your database and find a lucrative niche first, not a lot of people go over that. All right, so dialing in your database, what this looks like. So trimming the fat and taking lucrative shots. And I want to speak from my experience with this, and this is not going to be the experience with everybody, but this is one thing that I noticed for me to dial in my database and be really, really efficient of my time. So if you're new to the business, then hey, if it's a less than a $500,000 deal and it's $100,000, $300,000 deal, guys, you can do better than that. Okay. And there's a lot of brain damage that comes with 100,000, 200, $300,000 deals. I mean, with inflation, I don't even know what $100,000 deal looks like in most markets, right? Like maybe a small piece of land or something. But for you to spend your time and energy going after deals that are less than $500,000 in value, it's probably not worth your time. Okay. And this is from my experience. If you got a broker manager, telling you to do different. I almost said find a new manager, but I wasn't going to do that. But this is my advice here. And then same thing, if you've been in the business for a year or so, I would maybe not erase, we'll use archive is the best word. We will remove the less than $1 million deals from the database as well. And this was a big shift that I made to really, really climb the ranks, and what helped me soar past the 7 figure mark in commissions. And that was not doing the small deals, and also like even like deals would come to me and they would be $700,000 deal, whatever it was, 700, $800,000. And like we would refer those to somebody else on the team. So learning how to say no is a really, really big thing. And then, like I said, as you grow in income, you need to learn how to say no to more and more opportunities, because that, $700,000 deal, $20,000 commission, whatever it is, it can take the same amount of time and energy, sometimes more, than the $200,000 deal or the $200,000 commission. So be mindful of that. And then also don't use assessed value on this. Assessed value is oftentimes terribly, terribly wrong. So don't count on them. But I would know your price per square foot, and then you go from there. So know, hey, roughly this is what retail buildings are selling for, 150 a square foot. And then you can kind of dial in your database from there. That's what I would do. And also for me, this is, like I said, from my experience, and I don't know if this is just the way my business was set up. This is how, SVN was set up. I mean, I know their strengths, but uh, I have never had success north of 25 million bucks. Okay. Earlier on in my career, like that was like one of my goals, was like, oh, I want to do like a $20 million deal, a $30 million deal. But then when I got into it, I was like, no, I don't. Like, I don't want to do a $20 million deal, $30 million deal. Like, that would be cool, I guess, like just to say you did it. But chasing after these types of deals, there's other firms out there that specialize in these large transactions, and a lot of times you get into like more capital market stuff, and their teams are set up to do this. And those people are on salary, and they also don't make the majority of their money off commissions. They make a lot of their money off of the financing, the management, etc. So while you might be looking for a 2, 3, 4% fee, I mean, they are fine with a 1% fee or maybe a flat fee, because like I said, they're going to make money on the financing, the management, etc. Ron, you're getting ahead of us. You're getting ahead of us there. Here we go. So know your bread and butter. So in my business, in my market, mine was 3 million to $12 million, and also local owners. Okay, so our firm had like really good grassroots in the market. They've been there for 20, 30 years, and there was a large influx of capital, because like I said, we're in Tampa and Orlando. So this put us in a really, really good position. And I tell you this to just kind of like think about the perspective from your market, because this put us in a really good position to advise those local owners, right? Because the person in Lakeland, Florida, which some big city Tampa and Orlando folks can consider us a little more like podunky, if you will, but a lot of the local Lakeland owners, they wanted to capitalize on these Chicago developers, Atlanta developers, Miami investment firms, New York, capital coming down. They wanted to capitalize on that, because like they would hear of, deals selling for $100 a square foot, and $200,000-300,000 an acre, which is like double or triple what they've heard over the last 5 years. And here's the thing, is since we were the good local ownership, like they trusted us, okay, because they needed an advisor to walk them through that transaction, because they want to capitalize on the New York money, but like them dealing face to face with the New York money oftentimes is like a little bit scary, a little bit intimidating. So that was really like where we had a lot of success. And then also in 3 to 12 million, you have bigger commissions, you have more volume and less competition. So in this bracket here, we were still able to charge 4, 5, 6% fees. And then also there's more deals transacting, right? So if you go, ask me like, would you rather have 4% on a, $7.5 million deal, or would you rather have 1% on a $25 million deal? Uh, Kicker, the $7 million commission is more. But also there's more $7 million properties transacting, right? So like for every 10 $7 million transactions. There might be one or two $25 million transactions. So it allows you to put more deals in the pipeline. So that's what I would say there. All right, so we good there. And like I said, I tried to do this a little bit differently. This is not your typical like build a database, 500 to 1,000 properties, and property specific, that sort of thing. But let me know, like, write down questions, please, on more of the strategy behind this and databasing and trimming the fat, and how you can really make the best use of your time and like really take lucrative shots. Write down some questions. Would love to. We'll have some extra time at the end, so would love to jam and talk then. All right, folks, I'm harsh today. So prospecting, what I want to talk about is what I said earlier is like, hey, from 2015 to 2025, there was things done like people prospected in a certain way, but I think it's going to look different from 2025 to 2035. Right. So like we have to be looking towards the future of like what this thing is going to look like. And this is my thoughts of where I believe this is going to go. So the old way, as I said before, you're going to have spreadsheets and then you're going to have cold calling, right? And even before that, it was Rolodex and desk phone. It's really, really no different. Okay. And this is the hard road for multiple reasons. Some of y'all might have heard this stat before, but there's 14 billion calls per day and 5 trillion per year. I get like at least 30% of those checking on my, like, I got one today about like roof insurance, and there's just so much noise coming through the phones, that if people don't have your number, then good luck for a connection rate. But then also, here's another thing is when prospecting in commercial real estate, like you have to provide value. And this is the harder road because you have to provide value and you have to be convenient, right? So like even if you talk to a property owner through a cold call that you can really help, and they might want to retire soon or whatever it may be, but they're picking up their granddaughter from school or whatever it may be, like that's not a convenient time when like you could help that person and there could be a relationship here, but you just didn't call at the exact right time. So it's a little bit of a roadblock there, and you just hope that you can Hail Mary and set a follow-up reminder and then score then. So this is what we believe is like, hey, this is the old way of prospecting and what we believe the new way will look like. So sequencing. So sequencing, I didn't necessarily coin this term, but this is something that we started doing earlier on, and this is actually like what we've built Rec to do, is to use prospecting functionality to prospect from different angles, to increase connection rates, provide value from these multiple angles, and go and do more deals. So sequencing, what this would look like is this is just like a very short, quick example, and there's many more avenues you could go after. But an example of this would be like, hey, I want to send a piece of direct mail on January 5th. And then after that, say I want to send a mass text message 20 days later. And then after that, 20 days after that, I want to dial through them. Okay. So the way that this is done and why this is so much more effective, because you hope that when you dial them, like they've already got a piece of direct mail and a mass text message. Okay. They've already got a text to their phone. So hopefully they've heard from you. They know your name. They know who you are, etc. They at least have seen, one or two of these text messages or contact attempts before you get on the phone with them. And then if they haven't, like that's automatically makes it a little bit of a warmer call, even if they haven't seen it. You say, hey Perry, just wanted to let you know, like, hey, yeah, I sent you a direct mailer earlier this year. And then like, oh, I didn't get it. Like what address do you have on file? So you can get their address right then. Or you say, hey, like I sent you a text message to follow up 2 weeks later. Did you not get that? Make sure you got the right number, etc. But now all of a sudden, like you're on a cold call, but now this person says like, oh, this guy tried to send me direct mail. He tried to send me a mass text. Like that already heats up the conversation a little bit. And like I said, that's like worst case scenario. If they didn't get either of these things, which hopefully your data is dialed in enough where they are getting these things. So the benefits here, and really what this can do is like this can multiply your attempts, because commercial real estate, uh, Andre said, this is great, makes a lot of sense. Appreciate you. Write down questions, we'll get it hashed out. But This multiplies your attempts. So prospecting in commercial real estate is a volume game. Okay. That's one thing that has not changed and I don't think will change. Right. I think the connection rates will get worse, and we've already seen them get worse over phones because they're drowned out. Right. But I don't think the volume game is going anywhere anytime soon. Like I said, I think if anything, it's going to be more volume for less results, right? Because there's whatever I said, 5 trillion calls per year that are going out. So the volume that you put out there for prospecting needs to be significantly greater. So using things like this, you can obviously multiply your attempts and your touch points, with prospecting, and then also drastically increase connection rates. So this is an example of like the first 45 days in the year. Okay, so like this is the first 45 days in the year, and if you send this to 1,000 property database, it's, you have these 3 attempts. Now all of a sudden you've made 3,000 attempts by the first, what did I say, 45 days of the new year, right? And like I know for me, like when I was starting off in the business, I had one 500 to 700 property database, and I was calling through it like 2 to 3 times a year, like inconsistently, right? So if I do it, 2.5 times a year, that's 1,200 attempts, right? In like a year. Okay. But now you can put out 3,000 attempts in a month and a half. Okay. So I think this is going to be a game changer for a lot of folks. And something we're really excited to go and build with Rec. And of course, like as I told you guys, this is what we've built in our software. But like you can do this with an Excel spreadsheet and being disciplined and like time blocking it in your calendar. Okay. So don't think that you need the magic bullet or a fancy software to do this. However, shameless plug, it can help. Okay. I've sent a good amount of direct mail in my career. And one of the things that I have noticed is the the just sold or the just listed or whatever it may be. I've gotten very, very, very low response rates from that in my career. Okay, I've gotten much better response rates at sending things like transaction reports and and then leading to a point of value as far as like, what is the number. So you send a piece of direct mail and you say, hey, there's been these 3 transactions, just properties just like yours in the neighborhood. Scan here if you want to know for the price per square foot, or here to download our transaction report, like scan this QR code. Okay, so that's more the things that we see success with, because if it's just listed, just sold, etc., it can work, but like I don't know exactly the hit rate. I mean, you're probably 1%, maybe 2%, if that, which just can get expensive and inefficient. So I would challenge you, and this is actually why we made the community portion of Rec, which I know we got some members in here that are in the community as well. And because a lot of these things, it's like we're testing and trying like what works on direct mail. Okay, so like things like transaction reports, rent surveys, these things do really well. Okay, I say intro card. I put that in there because I remember sending these out when I first got in the business, and I would still send some sort of value if I were you, rather than just to like introduce yourself. But if you are new to the market, etc., you want to share your bio, who you are, how you can serve them. I don't think that's a terrible idea. But I would always try to pack in some value with that if you're newer to the market. So that's direct mail. Mass text, point back to this. Okay, so especially if you're using sequencing. So if you send a piece of direct mail and you send out, say, 500 of them or so, and then you send a mass text message, you can point back to whatever you sent in the direct mail. Okay, not only that will like have that credibility, like, hey, I sent you something, but also it's going to point back to like there's value in here, and we want you to get that value. So we have seen that work incredibly well. And then power dialer, as I stated before, once you're dialing through your contacts and you've already sent them these couple things, you can now all of a sudden point back to those and say like, hey, I sent you this, I sent you that, what did you think of that? Okay, did you see the transaction rates? Like, did you see the lease rates, the price per square foot? What do you think? How do you think that pertains to your property? Ask those questions that poke the curiosity, and get the prospect talking. All right. And like I said, having that conversation, about, did you see the transaction report? Did you see the lease rates? How do you think this pertains to your property? That is so much easier to get out if you've sent them a transaction report, if you've sent them materials pointing them to that value, versus like you just call them on a whim and it's like, hey, let me tell you about transactions in your market. Okay. That can still work, but like I said, it works a lot better if you've sequenced your prospecting and you've sent them things before. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you got some valuable insight to take your business to the next level. And if you want to leverage some of the prospecting features that we talked about in this video, just go to our website at rehq.co. That's REHQ.co. You can learn more about our software, what prospecting features look like in the world's most powerful CRM for CRE brokers. So that is all for this video, and we'll see you next time. Peace.